Hey everybody. So up there's the crowd goes wild, as they say. There was a Chris Manley made a funny comment. He said that when I said I finally know what it feels like to be famous. I said Angelina Jolie, and he said, no, now you know what it's like to be Frank Romano. Although I think I don't think I was as famous as Frank Romano in Australia, but it was close. If anybody doesn't know Mr. Frank Romano, who I call Francesco, Mr. Romano's career has spanned over 50 years in the printing and publishing industries. He's the
60.
author, 60. He's the author of over 40 books. They're more than 40 now?
65.
All right, I'm not going to do your bio. Why don't you tell everybody all about you, sir? It'll be easier.
No. It's a waste of time. Get into your program. We don't need to know more about Frank.
Well, okay. Well, I think other people need to know more about Frank. The most important thing about Frank is that he is the editor of the international paper Pocket Pal, who most people might know. But the reason why I want to tell this story on International Print Day is because this has a lot of meaning for me. When I first started out in advertising, it was one of those just say yes and you'll figure it out later situations. Otherwise, you get chairs thrown at you, which is interesting. People in advertising will know what I'm talking about. They're just like, just figure it out or get out, one of those things. And my cousin was actually, my first job was at Foot Cone Building. And my cousin was a copywriter. And I was freaking out about, I didn't know what a Velox was, to tell you the truth. And she opened up her desk drawer and she handed me her copy of the Pocket Pal and said, everything you need to know is in this book. And I carried that book around with me for a year. And I made it through my first year of advertising, asking, with my head down, asking as little amount of technical questions as possible. And it's all because of you, sir. And my entire career was born out of keeping that first job. So thank you so much. I cannot even believe that you're here talking to me on International Print Day. And we also have Jim Hamilton, who is Jim is actually the publisher at Green Harbor Publications. He's a board member at the Museum of Printing and one of the world's foremost experts on humans who have fallen from great heights and survived. One of my favorite things about you, sir. He is also the former group director of InfoTrends, which provided industry research that everybody counts on. Jim, thank you so much for joining us. And both of you, Frank, you are actually sitting in the Museum of Printing, and Jim, this year is the year of Frank. Can you tell everybody what that was all about? We'll start there.
Oh, exactly. Well, we may be on the eve of International Print Day, but this is the year of Frank because Frank turned 80 earlier this year, and the museum decided to turn it into a year-long event, fundraiser, just fun thing for folks to do. We had hoped really to make a big impact at Printing United. So I don't want to bring a downer in here, but we were disappointed that Printing United was canceled. Understood that had to happen, but we were going to have a booth there. Frank was going to be there with one of our other board members. It was going to be a chance for people to tell Frank how important he's been in their printing lives, just like you said just now.
I can't believe I got the opportunity. It's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, so we're really excited about that. We've gotten some great donations. We're looking to continue that initiative. There's so many things that the museum does in terms of preserving the history of print, all the way from linotype machines to some great, leaves from books, old Bibles, typographic information. We'll get a little bit of a tour of the museum in a moment, but there is so much stuff there, and Frank is doing so much. We're really excited. Actually, later on, I think at the beginning of next year, we'll be able to celebrate the publishing of his next book. So he may be able to tell you a little bit more about that. But again, printing history is a big deal for us.
I'm afraid to say where the museum is. Haverhill.
Pretty close.
Haverhill. One day, Francesco, I will get it. Haverhill? Haverhill?
You get,
Hey,
it's spelled Haverhill, but pronounced Hayvril.
Oh, Haverhill. Okay. Yeah, you Boston
It's not our
people.
fault. Had nothing to do with it.
but probably more
Okay.
important, it's just about 45 minutes north of Boston. So, if you're in the Boston area, if you come to Massachusetts, you should definitely stop in.
I had the privilege of getting a tour of the museum from Frank himself. And on our way there, he said, I need to stop at the post office. And we stopped at the post office and we got a bunch of packages and we carried them into the museum. And Frank opens up one of the boxes and he's like, oh, it's the Lisa from Steve Jobs. I was like, what? Frank, you want to tell that story?
Yes, there was several of us that were at the design show down in Boston. They said, let's go visit the museum. And so we stopped and picked up these packages and I put them to work. And we actually had an Apple Lisa that we plugged in. I have it almost functional right now, by the way. And it's a great collection to our desktop computers. We have almost every Apple computer. We have a Next machine, which I don't think anybody has. But the museum covers not only old printing presses and typesetting machines, but just about anything involved in communication.
And Steve Jobs used to send you the computers himself. Is that true?
That's correct. He gave me one of every computer. I got my first Macintosh in March of 1984 before anybody else saw it.
Wow, incredible. So you have tell everybody how the museum's set up and what goes on there and the kind of types of educational programs you do.
Yeah, we started 43 years ago when the Boston Globe was getting out of letterpress printing. And I went to Mr. Taylor, the publisher, and I asked if we could save some of it. Not only did he agree, he found us free storage space. And we didn't have a home until 1995 when we were able to move into the old textile museum in North Andover, Massachusetts. And we were there until about 2005 when they wanted to raise our rent. So we found this building here in Haverhill, and it was perfect for our needs. And our volunteers made it livable. And they built everything. They put all the floors down. They did all the walls. And now we have, I think, a pretty decent museum. Well, we get about 20 people on a Saturday when we're open to the public. But we do a lot with school groups. Today, I had 28 students from Lowell Vocational Technical High School. And they're in the graphic communications department. And I give them a little talk. And then I take them around and talk about the museum. And then I come back and I ask them questions. And if they get the answers right, I give them some kind of an award. And then I take a picture of them in front of the building. And it's great to have young people back in the building again. It's been a while. With the pandemic, we just didn't have any school groups coming through. But now they're starting to pick up. Next week, I've got 19 students coming in from another vocational school. So it's really great to have kids. And so long as I can keep a high school kid interested, I still got it.
This is true. What are they interested? Like, what is their interest? Is their interest in, oh, this is an antique thing from the past? Or is their interest in, this is something I want to be part of my life?
Okay, zero interest. They're high school kids. They have the attention span of a flea. You have to tell them why they should be interested. So the way I get them involved is I give a talk about type, because type is the one common denominator we all have in common. We all deal with type, whether you're writing a memo, you're doing an email, you're designing a brochure, you're using a typeface. And so I ask them what typeface they use most often. And by the way, it comes down to Helvetica, Arial, or Times Roman, Times New Roman. And I tell them how I was involved in that decision. And I also tell them I was involved in lawsuits involving typefaces, involving Zuckerberg and J.K. Rowling. And now I've got their interest. And so then I send them out to see the equipment that set this type in the early days. And now they're interested. And then when they come back, their questions start to become more pointed. So you have to tell a high school kid why they should be interested in something.
Well, I must be a high school kid because now all I want to know about is Jay, things you just said about J.K. Rowling and Mark Zuckerberg. Jim, what else do you want to say about the museum before we play the tour?
Um, you know, what Frank said about it being a place of communication, I think is really important. Kids are very often fascinated by the typewriter collection we have, and we have one that they can pound out, you know, a few letters on, because again, that's a very physical process of typing something out. And there really has been a renaissance around typewriters. We were able to get some really fantastic new additions to our collection because of a business school that was going out of business in the Boston area recently, and they had typewriters going back forever. But I mean, I also think that those who are design interest and art interest will look at woodcuts, letterpress printing, lithography, and think, oh wow, what could I accomplish with some of these kinds of things? So that's another really good way, I think, of getting young people interested. And also, you know, a lot of people are diving into letterpress now, and the collection that we have, including some of this Victorian wood and metal letters. Oh God, I mean, if you're just thinking of Arial and Times Roman, you're missing the boat.
It's incredible.
We just did a project for a movie studio who wanted a wanted poster that looked like it was done during the Victorian era. And we were able to do it because we had to type.
And you also had something to do with the movie The Paper, is that correct? With Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep?
Meryl Streep. Yeah, we did all the props for the movie The Post.
Oh, The Post, that's what it was called. Okay, Frank has sent me a video of the museum, and he's giving, you just have to see it yourself. So I'm going to share it now. It's about 2 minutes long. So here we go. Incredible.
I can't walk that fast anymore.
What is the oldest thing you have in there?
Me. No. Yeah, we have a complete copy of the Nuremberg Chronicle from 1493. It was a history of the world up to that point in time. It was the first book to mention Gutenberg as the inventor of printing, and we have a complete copy.
Wow. What about equipment wise?
I guess the Columbian Press with the eagle on top from 1813 would be the oldest.
And what was that long thing with the tube in the middle of it? What was that?
That was a color scanner, Deborah. That sold for $1 million in 1960, and people were thrilled to pay it.
Oh my God.
They didn't have to use cameras anymore. You scanned your image and it made 4 negatives on the other side. It opened up the world to color printing like you wouldn't believe.
And it was $1 million in the 60s?
Yes.
That seems like it would be a lot of money now.
Yes, but at that time, the way you made color separations required camera separations. And it took a year and a day. This machine did it in less than half an hour. So you could get a lot through in one day. And it just opened up the market because you could make color separations faster.
So, Jim, and I'll bring you in for this too. The theme this year for International Print Day is Print Again, which is a celebration of the revival of print in the marketing mix, largely pushed from COVID. People were having emotional connections with their mailbox, as we know, and also print again as far as the results will be so amazing. If you use print marketing, you'll want to print again and again and again. Frank, how would you apply that?
I don't know the question very well.
Well, like if I was to say to you, in what ways should everyone be thinking print again? What would your answer be to that?
See, that's not an easy question to answer because, you know, in the 1920s, printing companies ran ads telling people to put their advertising into print, not radio, because radio had just come in. When television came in, you had the same thing. Printers got very nervous, but print continued to grow. It wasn't until we get into this digital era that advertising dollars have shifted over. You have to follow the advertising dollars. So even though we all say we love print, we love paper, that's great. And I do too, by the way. However, I have no control over what publishers do. The New York Times now has more digital subscribers than they have print subscribers. So the advertising dollars are shifting away from print. And we have to figure out a way to bring it back if we want print to survive. Also, the way printers are going to prosper in the coming years is to print on other things besides paper. Printing on anything is going to be the next thing, or printing on everything is going to be the next big thing. And what I'm discovering, I was just at a press conference for EFI, and I asked them, who's buying the current flatbed inkjet technology, the machines that print on anything? They're non-traditional printers. They're non-traditional companies. And by the way, if you go back in time, it were the non-traditional organizations that bought offset lithography, because offset lithography was not looked at as a real process. In fact, the trade associations wouldn't even allow offset lithographers to join because they weren't real printers. Letterpress people were real printers. So everything changes. That's what I tell my students. So even though we all love print and we want it to come back, just saying that is not going to happen. We have to do something tangible about it. And that's where our trade associations should be doing more at this stage of the game, to show the efficacy of print, especially directed, pinpoint print. Variable data printing is not being used as much as it should be. If we can get advertisers to go back to that, I think that would bring print back in a big way.
The problem with that is that the customers from the brands don't want to do 5,000 different things. It freaks them out. So they want to do customizable things. But to your point, Francesco, brands now are looking to hyper target their customers, but in groups, not as individuals. So they're looking for a group of people who likes blue and a group of people who likes green. And then they will customize to those people based upon that, because they're trying, to your point, unify people, give them an experience and engagement that can be collective and not personal. You know, taking it out of the me and making it we, and then making it us. which is really important. Did you want to say anything about that? And then we'll go to Jim for his comments.
Yeah, yes. By the way, the internet is a cesspool right now of stuff. And the reason is they know so much about us because of what we do. Google knows everything I do. You know, if I go on Amazon and I look for something, the next thing I know, I start getting emails about it. They know everything I do. But here's one thing. You cannot buy an email list of everybody in a specific zip code. No way to do that. The only way you can get to a group by zip code is with mail. And our problem is our mail service is starting to degrade at this stage of the game. So personalized printing has an advantage if we know how to use it, because I can get to people geographically. What you want to do is you want to get to them by their needs, by their desires or whatever. That's only known by Google at this stage of the game. Now, if Apple implements this note tracking thing they want to do in the next iPhone, that's going to have a phenomenal effect on everybody, because if they can't track us, they can't follow what we do. So it's a very interesting dynamic right now of print versus all this electronic stuff. And the electronic stuff is winning right now because it's cheaper, you can reach more people. And even though it might be costly, you're reaching so many, the cost per contact is very low. I don't think we're going to change that quickly at this stage of the game.
Yeah, well, I think there are consumer data privacy laws coming. Very, very, they're already here, but they haven't been implemented everywhere. And to your point, that will change everything about mailing lists and permission-based marketing and database marketing. Everything that we've been trying to do is just going to have to be like stop for a minute. Everybody reassess permissions. I don't know if you remember, but when Canada went through this, I started getting all these emails from Canadians making sure that they could contact me. But this time it's actually going to affect print. I would suggest that everybody goes to girlswhoprint.net. On Girls Who Print Day, I did a session with Pat McGrew and Dr. Linda Freed, and we discussed this and all the implications for print businesses out there. Check it out. Jim, bring you into the conversation. Print again.
You know, I would take a different angle on it. I think the personalized piece is really important too, but the tactile piece, and we heard a little bit about this earlier on, to me is really important. Whether it happens to be your bill or statement that sits on your desk and constantly reminds you that it's there, whether it's the nice piece of paper that you pick up and you notice the firm nature of it. Maybe that box that you receive in the mail, it may be a special effect that you get that's tactile. Maybe it's special colors, a gold, a metallic, those kinds of things. And I think that tactile thing and how it impacts our senses is something I'd really pick up when I would talk about print again. And honestly, when we see people coming in for workshops, some of it is because of the love of paper, of letterpress, pressing into paper, really having an impression and something that you might keep.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, both of you. Jim, before I let you and Frank go, how can people donate to the museum? How could they get in touch? How can they, everything that they need to do to celebrate the year of Frank?
Well, the museumofprinting.org is our website, and there's a big red donate button on that you can go straight to. But I'd also encourage people to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at moprinting.com. We're on Facebook at the Museum of Printing and on Instagram at Museum of Printing. And so you can really see a lot of what we're doing by keeping up with us on social media. But remember, museumofprinting.org and that big donate button, because we owe Frank a real debt of gratitude for the work that he's done throughout the years in terms of just the industry and preserving history.
Absolutely. I am a proud member of the museum. I love getting my newsletter. Francesco, you get the final word. Anything you want to say to everybody out there in the world about print, about anything you want?
Well, I just want to say that Deborah Korn has done a lot for this industry, and I look forward to her doing a lot more over the next years.
You're here.
Wow. Okay, that happened on International Print Day, but just saying. Francesco, molto bene, molto grazie, grazie. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are the highlight every time I see you and get to spend some time with you, and I can't wait to spend some time with you again. Jim, thank you for all that you've done for Francesco, for the museum, and for the industry. Gentlemen, happy International Print Day. I'm actually going to do a presentation now. You might like this, Frank, just saying.
Okay, I'll be on. I'm muting right now.
Mute and turn off your video if you don't mind.